share some quick thoughts on priority lists and to-do lists. And I'm going to use, this is a program that comes for free if you use Apple products. It's called Reminders. And I've been using this, let's see, at least 5 years. It's a staple for me. It could be better in a lot of ways, but I don't need anything better. This is fine for now. So I think the best way to show you this is to actually show you my real to-do list. And well, there are other things that I use in my system. I have loose leaf notes and I have post-it notes, and I actually have a Word document. Well, it's Pages. That's another Mac free Apple product, but same diff. It's a document. But this is good enough. I do have to apologize. Unfortunately, one limit of this little show and tell is going to be that there's nothing on here about my day-to-day full-time job. And that's just because I'm in a very strange spot right now compared to any previous time in the sense of how focused that work is. I know exactly what I have to do, and it's very focused. And because I've spent so many years in the exact opposite extreme, I can spin this plate with no amount of thought or effort. That's not to say that the work doesn't require my full focus. I'm saying I know what I need to do, and I just go do it. It's like Rocky IV when he's training in Russia, and his trainer comes along, but he's useless. He just says, "Well, you know what you need to do. You've been doing this for long enough. Just do it." So that's a nice place. Anyway, look, here's the benefit of this. You'll get massively more done with massively less stress. The other day I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, well, anyway, I said, yeah, well, I got up really early, and I told him when. He's like, there's something wrong with you. I said, that's true, but not because of this. and he's like, maybe he's enumerating all of these ideas of what might be causing this. And I basically told him, no, this is a choice. This is a choice. I think he feels guilty because he doesn't do what I do, but that's all right. It's not because I am stressed. He's like, maybe you're just really stressed out. I said, I can't tell you the last time I felt stress. I'm dead serious. I do not experience stress. And it's not fully because of this system I'm going to show you. The full recipe for that is something that I don't think anyone can handle just yet. But this will get you really far. This is the highest impact thing for the lowest cost on that list, on that path. Anyway, so here's how the stress gets vaporized. Right now, when you have something to do, it goes into your mind, and your mind operates in a paradigm where you have this tiny capacity to focus on things. It's like a computer with very little RAM. And that's everybody. That's not a criticism of you. That's everyone. We're very limited in the set of things we can think about at one time. And so you operate in a state where either something's important enough to worry about or it's not. That's a binary thing. It's a light switch. It's on or off. Unfortunately, reality doesn't work that way. In reality, there's far more that is important than could ever fit in that tiny postage stamp resource you have of your mind. So, of your present attention, let's say, okay? So what happens is you load that up in about 2 seconds flat, and then you get super stressed when new things come along because you realize you have to throw things out of the boat to make space for new things. And those are all important things because you felt that they were important enough to put on there in the first place. So things are constantly falling through the cracks. You constantly feel like you don't have enough resources to do what you need to do. And it's stressful all the time. And you can't set that aside. There's nowhere to offload that to. And so you're going to continue in that stress until you're quote unquote done. But here's the thing, and few people are honest enough to have figured this out, unfortunately. You're never done. You're never done. If you feel like you're done, you're dishonest. It's that simple. It's that clear, okay? you're just ignoring what's really obvious. And I'm not saying alone that it should be that obvious that you're never done. I'm saying you're ignoring all these important things that you should be worrying about in order to yield this delusional state of done. Okay? And there are a lot of people who feel this way, and they go about and they do hard things so that they don't have to do hard things later. It's like they work to play. They think that life is this chain of freedom from concern or toil, and that everything they do that's hard is just, well, I got to do this right now in order to get back to the default state of done. There is no state of done, ever. If reality is continuous, so will your to-do list be, right? These things have to be the same, have the same qualities. And if they deviate, it's you that's off, okay? So this is very, very analogous because it's not an analogy. This is a feature of the way things are. This is how it is with God. He has figured it out. He is the solution to the problem. And so if we deviate in how we are from how he is, we're the ones who are losing. We're the ones who are off. We're the ones who aren't going to solve the problem. Do you see? It's the same with reality. If he created all these things. And so we got to get with the program. Okay, so all that being said, imagine a world where when you get a new thought about something or something smacks you in the face as, shoot, this doesn't work the way I thought it did. Now I have to do something about it. Instead of letting that go into whatever part of your brain that goes into, you create some sort of to-do list. It could be written by hand. I don't recommend that because you're going to have to change it a lot. You could use just a note file or something, but it should probably be on a computer. And if you have Apple products, I would highly suggest just starting with this. There are other programs out there, whatever. You can find them. Just type in to-do list and you'll get all kinds of things and you can play around with it. This is sufficient for my needs, so this is what I use. And just shove all of your ideas in some, look, this is how you create a new list. Add list, unsorted, pick a color. Let's see. Flesh. Okay, boom. Now, when I get an idea, so say I'm going to work and I have to step over a broken toy and say fix toy for Johnny. I don't have a son named Johnny, but somewhere there's a Johnny with a broken toy. Okay, so that's there. And look, I didn't have to think about it at all. Now, the cool thing about this, I'm on my computer right now, but if you have an iPhone, through your account, you can sync these things. It's very easy. It's automatic. So if I open up my phone and I do this same thing I just showed you, it'll show up here too. It'll sync, which is really nice. You can also do this across families, which I'm not going to get into, but you can delegate things to kids or have your wife delegate things to you. Whatever, you can transmit these things between people, okay? And let's just pop out a couple more. I really should have, whatever. Make special dinner for Tony's birthday. Again, just funny fake names, whatever, right? And as ideas occur to you, you can capture them. We talked about instant stress reduction. Here's the next benefit. You have no idea the creative power that you're allowing to just go through your fingers like sand, or to escape your life without taking advantage of it like sand through your fingers. So creative ideas, they almost never come on demand. They almost always come involuntarily. And so you need a system to capture those. Right now, okay, so you're familiar with many things that follow the pattern of if you don't think about these and practice this, you won't even scratch the surface of its potential. So no one becomes an expert piano player without ever thinking about piano or practicing, right? You don't just sit down and you can play like Mozart. That's probably not the greatest example, but anyway, even Mozart practiced. He played a lot. Okay, um, so you have to pay attention to things to get better at them, and to practice things to get better at them. And then once you do, all of a sudden it's second nature, like riding a bike. Think of how many times kids fall when they're learning to ride a bike, but when's the last time you fell on a bike? Um, so it turns out that we all have this tremendous capacity to come up with great ideas all the time, and we can see things that need to be done. If you're not capturing that and using it, God is not going to amplify it. So imagine the ability to see potential way beyond what you do. And the benefit of that is that you can help fulfill that potential. You can help manifest that opportunity. And that's one very important way you create things that are more like heaven on earth. You help things achieve the potential that God gave them. And you make yourself an instrument in His hands by seeing that potential and getting it done. So we're talking about the most practical of things, a to-do list. But do you see how these tentacles, they envelop all of the most important things in life? And this is one very good example of how the gospel, the power of the gospel is not lived by the people because the people don't see how the gospel reaches every aspect of their lives. It's embedded in everything. Everything God created is embedded with His essence and can only be used for its full goodness in as much as we figure out exactly how and live that way. It's very important. Anyway, so we pop these on here instead of thinking about them. It's just second nature. You could be driving and you shouldn't text while you're driving, but you could theoretically you could open this up and add an item here and just leave it. Or you could be in a meeting and all of a sudden think, oh, I got to fix this stove, and you just click on here, fix stove. You could say like, I wonder if there's a more efficient thermostat setting. Check into thermostat. Whatever, right? It doesn't matter. You don't think about it. You just write it and leave it. Okay? So that's how things get into this. And then what do? Well, then you pick a time, and it doesn't have to be prescribed. It could just be a time you tend to do it. Maybe it's when you're on the toilet. Maybe it's first thing in the morning. Maybe it's Sundays, whatever, where you come into this list, or maybe it's just when you're in the mood. You come into this list, and I'll tell you, for me, it's when I have a lot of energy, fresh energy, like first thing. I don't do it first thing in the morning because I'm just doing spiritual things. But like 9 a.m., I hit my list, especially this was dominated by, oh, I do have work. What is this? Oh, okay. It's a side project. When this was dominated with my full-time jobs, because I had two, and it was crazy trying to keep that straight. So I leaned on this heavily. It worked amazingly. So between a calendar for the things that were not flexible, like I have this meeting Tuesday at 4, okay? But then everything that I had control of was on this list. And we'll get into why and how that works. Okay, so, but you have these set apart times where your task is planning. Okay, you're not executing, you're just planning. So you get creative, you get excited about the future, you get hopeful and optimistic. This is one reason why I prefer doing this at the beginning of the workday, because I'm not corrupted by small thinking people. Okay, that sounds super judgmental, but I wish it weren't true, but I'm just telling you how it is. Do you know why Jesus went off by himself when he woke up earlier than anyone else did? So he was doing all the same things externally as the apostles were, over the 3 years, but he woke up earlier than they did. Why? He got less sleep. Why? He was zonked out on the boat while they were all awake and alert. And it wasn't because it was their job, there were some kind of slaves that were in charge of the sails or something. He was zonked out and they knew it. He never slept as much as they did. Why? Because he had to recharge his batteries. He had to make sure there's a time. Your kids go off to public schools and they're there for 6 hours, and then you got them in all these stupid after school programs where they're around their peers for even more time. And the question is, how much are you offsetting that with weights on the other side of the scale through time that you spend with them one-on-one? I don't mean just you and a kid, but I'm saying like you're really all in focused on them, the way their peers are and their teachers are at school and after school. And what's the counterbalance of the influence? So if you took a pie chart of your kids, they sleep, they go to school, they spend time with friends, they're on their cell phones. I just saw a report, an average of 4.5 hours a day on social media. So what slice of that time is with you? And how are you balancing it? And so in the same token, we have an opportunity to charge ourselves with the Spirit of God through one-on-one interactions with Him. Now that will benefit us to the extent that the bandwidth we have with Him is greater than alone. The bandwidth we have with Him when we're alone with Him is greater than what we would get in any other situation. For most people, studying the scriptures is probably the best bet of how to maximize that bandwidth during that time as you're starting out. Some people can do it through prayer, and others it looks a little different. But there are a lot of people who get more out of other things than their alone time with God as far as spiritual battery charging. But as you ascend, it becomes just you. So the set of things and people that will feed you that way shrinks. The amount that's transferred through that increases, but the set of people and things decreases. For Jesus, the only thing He could do is get by Himself with the Father. And anyway, so when you're in that state where you're hopeful, you're happy, hopeful, energetic, etc., the world has not yet beaten you to a pulp for the day, then that's the good time for planning. So you go to this list and you say, all right, let's look at this and let's get these unsorted things into topics, or however you're doing it. I'll get to that in a second. And then the net result of this planning period is I'm going to produce a Post-it note that is what I thoroughly believe I could get the best I could do for a day today. So I'm going to look at all this stuff and I'm going to reduce it down to one Post-it note for today. Okay? And I've mentioned in the past a life plan, which is sort of a bigger picture thing. So the full hierarchy of these is your life plan document. That's the big picture. This is all about tasks. So that life plan has your transcendent purpose, your goals, and your tasks. Those tasks, it's a very limited thing because it's of space constraints and everything, but those are kind of like long-term habit kind of tasks, like I want to take out the trash every Monday night kind of thing, right? But this is incidental things, projects, whatever, this is more of a day-to-day, it's pure pragmatism, okay? This is the actual rubber meets the road. So when you're planning, you take these things and you say, oh, fixed stove. Okay, well, that's going to be, these are folders. So you can put lists into folders. But this is going to be a home thing. And then I could go to home and find out where it goes. And here's the cool thing about reminders. First off, you can order these lists. You just click and drag. And so you need a priority. There you go. That's first. This is second, whatever, right? You can also create subtasks. So if I just click on this and hit enter, let's say I need to buy mac and cheese for this. So it's an Apple product. So of course they assumed that by Mac I meant their thing. And then you go to the right and drop it onto this, and now it's a subordinate task. Okay, and maybe there's another one, which the easiest way of doing this is go down here, and it stays on that indentation, and maybe I need to buy, I don't know, I have to make the mac and cheese. Okay, so then as you're going through this, and you get it done, you click here, and it goes away. And there's this great feeling of relief because now you're making measurable progress toward a meaningful goal. Measurable progress towards a meaningful goal. Very important, okay? Sometimes when I finish things, I don't check them off, and I just, mostly because I've moved on to something else and not thinking about it, but it feels very nice to come down and just click things off because you're all done, and boom, it's gone. All right? Now, let's talk about what these lists are. Always remember, you're in charge of your system. You can make this anything you want it to be. If you find that something's insufficient, you can do the research and find a way to make it work. If you're finding that something's not working, you can tweak it. It's all up to you. So I'll share with you some iterations of this that I've been through, and it's not a best to worst. It's very much adaptive. I told you right now I don't really need this for my work stuff. So mostly I'm just using it for home stuff. And there are a few things on here that I have no plans to actually do. I'm just using this to save the idea so I don't lose it, just in case I change my mind. So in the current application of this, what I've got is a categorization by topic, and there's also one by time period. And I've found that to be very useful. So one key to efficiency is batching things by topic or time so that you can take advantage of mutual efficiencies so you avoid overhead. Like, look at this. This is actually my town list. So if I go to town, which is like once a month, these are things that I need to buy, but I'm almost always just going to Lowe's. So that's what I called it. When I convert this into a Post-it note, I'll actually break it out by place and make a circuit around town so I'm not wasting time driving back and forth and I don't forget things. My biggest problem is forgetting things because I have so many plates spinning that if I don't write things down, it's not going to happen. And so like if my kid will say, one of my kids will say, Dad, can we whatever? And I say, yeah, that sounds good, but send me an email. And then that's another intake to this whole process. And I'll go through my emails and I'll make sure that they get onto this. Okay, so my town list right now, there's a few things I need to buy from Lowe's. This has been on here for like 2 months. This is the last piece out of like 1,000 things that will fully complete this raised bed irrigation project that has been going through iterations for like 5 years. This is the final step, and they are out of stock, and I cannot find it anywhere. So I'm just waiting. I don't actually need it. The thing can work. It's just not perfect yet. It just needs this one last piece. This is, anyway. So that's been on there for a while, and that's fine. So every time I go to Lowe's, I check to see if it's there. This is a different store. This is obviously Home Depot. But look, this is the level. There's a guy in town by this store that sells battery things, and he's got chestnut trees in his yard. And the next time I'm in town, I'm going to check because it's the right time of year. The chestnuts are probably on the ground, and I want to plant some. And so I'm going to drive by his house and take some off the sidewalk. So, like, there's no way for me to clearly convey this idea that I'm trying to tell you right now, which is when you feed the muse feeds you. You write down crazy ideas and you never know where they're going to go. Maybe they go to the trash can because you come back to it. This happens to me all the time. 2 weeks later, I'm looking at this. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And I just delete it, right? But many times it comes to fruition, and one day this chestnut tree grows up and saves your life. That's obviously ridiculous, but you see that magnitude of surprise in the little things. You don't know where those little things will go. You have no idea. But we constrain what God can do in our lives so often every dang day. We don't even realize what we're doing because we've narrowed him down in ways we can't really see to such a small window of how he can help us that maybe the best thing he can do is say, oh, that while you're driving around town, oh, there's a chestnut tree. I wonder if I could grow some of those on my place or whatever, right? You see the battery place and you're like, oh, I didn't think about it, but my phone dies all the time and I find myself not able to do things I need to do that would be productive because I have to charge my phone, and it's when it's 50 feet away from me, it actually makes a significant difference in what I do with it. And so you can say, oh, I better look into what it would cost to replace my battery. And then it's sitting on your to-do list or whatever the thing might be. You have no idea. It could just be, I had a random thought the other day to see if I could find a guy I worked with in the National Guard who I really liked. I was only working with him for a brief amount of time. We didn't get a chance to really become friends outside of work. And then I was discharged suddenly. We weren't expecting it. And I really didn't have any time to get those ducks in a row to keep connections. And, this was 10 years ago. I was like, I wonder how he's doing. And sure enough, you can find people online with 2 seconds of Googling, and which is a little scary how much of your personal info is online. But anyway, I'm not saying through Facebook, I'm just saying Google searches. There's some weird website out there that you can get people's information on. It's not some dark web thing or anything. I promise. So you write it down and then you do it. That's not on this list because it's on a post-it in front of me. Okay, whatever. So this is a situational list. If I'm in town, this is what I'm going to do. So when I'm doing a project and I'm like, oh, geez, I can see I'm low on paint brushes. I'm going to need paintbrushes before I paint anything else. Then I'll pop on here and I'll say paintbrushes. That won't go into unsorted because I already know where it's going to go. So I just pop it in here. That's one reason this one didn't exist and does not exist. So the ones by topic, it could be things like home projects, things to do with kids, things to do with your spouse, work things, early morning things like spiritual things, workout things, whatever. So that's topical categorization. You could have temporal organization, so chronological, like today, this week, this month, next quarter, this year. You could have it by seasons. I use that one a lot because I have a garden, and we're shut down outside half the year with snow where I live. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these. So, well, here is that unsorted. I have no idea what's on any of these. Hopefully it's not embarrassing. I haven't looked at this for a while. So here's one. I need to look into ways to preserve apples without electricity or fuel, because I have a lot of apples and I rely on those, and I have no idea what I would do if I didn't have them. Electricity or fuel. Harrow rake. I did do an experiment on this where I tried to use a piece of fence to make a harrow to help seed the ground with rye. So I did that, and then I was going to get one of those big drums that you fill with water and push around. So at some point I'm going to troll Craigslist for that. but yeah, so this is the way I do it. So take a day. These are things that I'd need to take a day off of work in order to do. So they're things that have to be done during the week. So I have a friend who has a dump trailer, and there's a place that we can get mulch for free at this wood mill up the. It's like a half hour away, but to make the drive worth it, you need a dump trailer, which I don't have. So I need to bribe a friend of mine to borrow his trailer. These are things I can get done during a weekday. So let's see, I have a whole collection of videos and pictures and stuff on my computer that I have to give to my wife because she's the keeper of those. And I've slowly been organizing them so it's not just this dump of random things. There is a pipe to the raspberries that has a leak in it, and I put electric tape on it for a quick fix. And at some point, I need to go and cut out that pipe and replace it. And then one thing that I noticed is that every single time I sync my phone to my computer, because we have a road trip or something, sometimes when we're out in the yard to play music for my kids, and I notice that there are duplicates of everything, and I have no idea how that happened. It's annoying because I need space on my phone to make videos, and I need to fix that. So these are things, quick things I can do during the week. This is probably the worst place to start because these are all really low priority. I have a stockpile of ready to go fun things I can do with my kids, so I don't have to think of it in the moment. These are things that I still need to do out in the yard before it snows. So I put the backhoe on my tractor yesterday, and I moved a tree and bushes yesterday. So those are done. So I still have to do a few things, but these are my summer projects that I'm not done yet. There were probably like 300 things on this list at the start of the summer, and so there's just a few left, and that's good. So in the fall, which we're now totally into, but I'm behind, I did put on backhoe, so that was in more than one place. So there's still things that I need to do, okay? So we can just keep going through this, but when I know I won't be able to get to something in the fall, I'll bump it forward to wherever it sits. There's a couple of catches where I just put random things I thought of, or things that maybe I'd like to do, but they're just not high priority. I put those all through here. So that's probably what is important here, but there's no limit of the impact this might have. So for example, there's a store called Murdoch's here, and every year they have a 4th of July sale for people with prior military service. And it's a huge discount, but the problem is that it's only for like 3 days or something. So anything that can wait to get purchased from there, I have a rolling list of things to keep buying from there every year because I never remember when I go what I should get. And then there are things that I need to buy for seeds, for the garden, which this is an ever shortening list. I actually don't need this because I have tons, because I've already experimented with that, and it's always nice for things to fall off of the set of what you worry about. So we're producing most of the seeds that we use at this point. Anyway, I hope this is useful. So I highly encourage doing something like this, and I apologize that my list is a lot more narrow than it usually is, but this will change your life for sure, absolutely. And what you'll find is it's a very it will help you adopt a never-ending mentality while producing even less stress than you currently experience. So you get to keep all of the increases in productivity with an even less cost than you currently spend. That's a pretty amazing deal if you think about it. So as with all improvements, when you first start doing this, it might be a little jarring. So I would recommend just starting with 2 lists. One is your unsorted, and the other is your sorted. And then from there, you'll figure out what you need to do to break that down further and what works best for you. So I highly recommend you do this. And what you're going to see is massive productivity gains because you can sort those lists. We really didn't talk about that. You can sort those lists by priority. This is my number one priority thing for all my projects at home is this list right here. And actually, I already did this. So I got a tip for a person. I reached out to someone for some mentorship. I want to help my daughter but learn more about visual design. And so I got a tip that LinkedIn has all these classes. And so I figured I'd try that out and do the free trial and see what it's like. And I have a post-it note here, actually, that says to hop on there with my daughter. Where is that? Anyway, it's right here. There it is. Now I see it. It's got a star next to it, so I wouldn't lose it. So I actually did this the other day, and I also created a family LinkedIn account, which was kind of humorous because my kids like that movie National Treasure, and so the LinkedIn account is what was that guy's name? Something Gates, and he's a historian. Because I didn't want to use my LinkedIn account and have the kids on there doing who knows what. So that's done. And then I went beast mode and finished these shelves in this shed we call the rabbit hutch because it used to have rabbits in it. Doesn't anymore. So now I'm down to a few things that are projects that I have started and not finished. And go away. Why isn't this going away? And these are things this is the highest priority, get these things done. And right now, actually, as I look at this, I'm going to bump this. This is not a priority. We can do this next year. So it's going to go to the spring 2024 list. Boom. So now I never have to think about that again until spring of 2024, and I don't have to remember it in spring 2024. It's already there. And so as that rolls around, I'm going to go to this list and I'm going to look through all of this and I'm going to resort it according to priority. So this will keep you sane and it will help you be much more productive. So I hope, I've rambled about this for quite some time. I hope it's useful to see it in practice, and I hope this encourages you to give something like this a shot in your own life and do what works for you. So find what works for you and do it, and let me know how that goes.